A house where people are raised by two mothers or a house where people are raised by two fathers can be equally as fulfilling for a child as a house where there's a mother and a father. All that matters is that there's a team of adults raising that child. There's no magic formula that says that if you happen to have a father who's a femboy and a mother who's effeminate, that is somehow a better situation than having the most masculine butch lesbian be the father figure of the house for you. There's nothing saying that that formula is somehow better or different. So, we got to talk about a very particular Catholic group now. And I know that there's not a lot of description there. There's not a whole lot to go off of. But this is a group that largely spends a lot of their time scrubbing the internet of any actual information on them that is not particularly curated by themselves. As a result, the information I've been able to find is very, very sparse, but I think by making this video, I can maybe put out some feelers and see if anybody else is able to offer more information on them than is publicly available. So, we're going to talk about the Catholic organization known as TFP, Tradition, Family, and Property. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and get into the actual fan art section, and then we'll get into the conversation about it. This one is from Dovewing, or the Taurus system, and this is them saying, I mentioned doing a dragon version of Suris' avatar a few times during streams. Well, I'm working on them now, and I think it's adorable. Here's the line art, and I figured Suris would be a frost dragon with a sorcery interest. And you should not let that slime out of that bottle. Ever. The next one we have here is from Hunty12Wee. There is no context given, but it is a slime Suris in a box. You should do terrible things to that slime in Minecraft. Trust me, they deserve them. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get right into today's topic, TFP. So, let's go ahead and take a look real quick at their website here. Prophecies of Our Lady, Catholic Perspectives, Fighting the Culture War. Aw, isn't that so great? Don't you just love it whenever, you know, Fighting the Culture War is on your website? Isn't that just great? I wonder what they say here. Oh, wow, I even have to translate it. That's just so cool. Oh, huh. Well, fuck it. Does anybody know how to translate the website on the fly? Because I don't remember how to do that. So the property part of TFP is concerning. Oh, well. We'll find it a little more concerning here in a bit, probably. Well, that's annoying. I wonder why that's in Spanish and everything else is not. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff that they're supporting here. Dear Walmart, leave our children alone. Your local Walmart is targeting our children right now. You see, the retail giant is doing everything possible to force the homosexual agenda on its customers. Its website features a Pride and Joy page that sells LGBT children's toys. 2 lesbian Bratz dolls, a children's book called Pride 123, many other books portraying the homosexual lifestyle, Little People figurines as drag queens, Disney Pride Edition plushes. Oh, wow. They think that that's just so scandalous. They said what's even more scandalous is that a household name like Walmart can get away with selling such products. Really? Really? So I guess the very first thing we're reading from them is them freaking the fuck out about the gay. Apparently. We've got a TFP video here, May God Protect America from Socialism.
I was literally right in that building, and I looked over here.
What happens when you unmask socialism? Return to order, where we've been, how we've got there, where we need to go. Let's see here. Pope Francis increases confusion on the homosexual sin. Let's see here. So we've got anti-LGBTQ stuff in here already. That's not been very, very difficult for us to find at all. So wait, you're seriously let me laugh even harder? Picture shows an accurate member of their group. Hold on, Said 10 reasons that gay marriage is harmful and that it needs to be disapproved is what it said. Oh, really? Really? Then let's, you know what? Let's go into that article. Let's go into that TFP article right here. Let's just run everything through the translator. Why not? 10 reasons why homosexual marriage is harmful and should be disapproved. Okay? Also, Nakibri helped out by throwing this at me. These are 10 reasons why homosexual marriage is harmful and should be disapproved, and they will help you defend the institution of marriage, which is universally defined as a union between a man and a woman. It's not universally defined as that. You defined it as that. Let's go ahead. What is this first one here? I'm so curious what we'll find. I am so curious what we'll find here. It's not a marriage is their first. It's not a marriage. Yes, it is. Legally, it is. Calling something a marriage does not in itself make it a marriage. It does, though. That's how legal things work. When we call them something and we make them legally binding, that makes them that. The promoters of homosexual marriage propose something entirely different. They propose a union between two men and two women, or two men or two women. This denies the obvious biological, physiological, and psychological differences between men and women. Guys, did you know that men and women can be different? Did you know that AFAB and AMAB people can be different? Because I knew that, and none of it fucking matters. There's a fuck ton of mental differences between me and other men. There's a fuck ton of mental differences between whichever girl I'm going to end up falling in love with and 10, 15,000 other women. None of it matters. So we've got one basic bitch argument. Doesn't mean anything. What's the next argument? What do we have here? What do we have? Hold on. I'm going to the wrong things here. It is a violation of natural law. Marriage is not just any relationship between human beings. It's a relationship rooted in human nature and is therefore governed by natural law. What the fuck is natural law? Natural law is a meaningless statement. It's vague as shit. The most elementary precept of natural law is the good should be done and sought and the bad should be avoided. Okay, cool. People loving each other good. People not loving each other bad. So, gay marriage good. Jesus fucking Christ. I know there's more here that says, like, any situation that institutionalizes the avoidance and the purpose of sexual act violates natural law. I'm sorry, but the purpose of sex is for me to cum. That is the purpose of sex. Functionally, the thing sex is for the ejaculate to escape my balls. That's the purpose of sex. Now, there's another purpose of sex that is equally important, and that is for her to squirt. I don't make the rules. Those are the rules. I don't make them. Those are just the rules. Now, there's a byproduct of sex called children. There's another byproduct of sex called years and years of regret because you chose the wrong person. But those are byproducts. The purpose is whatever you want it to be. The purpose of sex is for the slimes to play with the furs. God damn it. God damn it. Sex has a multitude of purposes. One of them is bonding between people. One of them is the creation of children. One of them is just having fun. There are people who don't want to be bonded to each other, but will still engage in sex as a recreational activity. There's a lot of different reasons to do the sex thing. The purpose of sex is whatever you need it to be at the time. The purpose of a stab can be self-defense. The purpose of a stab can be murder. Homosexual marriage deprives children of having a mother or father. So we've actually, without reading any of this shit, I can tell you that it doesn't matter if you have a mother and a father in a house. It matters that you have a house of co-parents. A house where people are raised by two mothers or a house where people are raised by two fathers can be equally as fulfilling for a child as a house where there's a mother and a father. All that matters is that there's a team of adults raising that child. There's no magic formula that says that if you happen to have a father who's a femboy and a mother who's effeminate, that is somehow a better situation than having the most masculine butch lesbian be the father figure of the house for you. There's nothing saying that formula is somehow better or different. What's the next one we have here? I'm curious. What about the villages raising the children? So as somebody who is friends with a necromancer, you've actually got the statement wrong. It takes a child to raise a village. That's the actual statement. You may not have the child at the end of it, but you will have a village. Jury's out on how much skin they have left. But what's the next one here? Validates and promotes the homosexual. So homosexual marriage validates and promotes the homosexual lifestyle. This is already going to be a bullshit one, which like it only matters that validating homosexual lifestyles is bad if you can say that homosexual lifestyles are bad in the first place. We haven't gotten that here, so neat. Please tell me that this one is going to be different. Please tell me we're going to have an actual good argument here. It turns a bad deed into a civil right. Again, that only matters if homosexual existence is bad. Oh my fucking god. Everything here is just, again, basic bitch arguments. Like, even if I read further into that, yes, my collective gay art of Suris self-cest is valid. No, it is not, but it's also canon, so whatever. Homosexual activists hold the view that homosexual marriage is a civil rights issue, similar to the struggle of racial equality in the 60s, but this is false because sexual behavior and race are essentially different realities. A man and a woman who want to marry may be different in their characteristics. One may be black, the other white, one rich from blah, 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 blah. But homosexual marriage is contrary to nature. Okay, again, no. These are the same thing. I'm sorry. If somebody wants to try to hold that, like, a homosexual marriage is different than an interracial marriage, all of the same arguments that were held against interracial marriage are the arguments that were held against homosexual marriage. The arguments about it being unnatural and about it not being the proper way to raise children and all that dumb shit, it was the same fucking arguments made against interracial marriages. You can say they're different, but it's... Conservative arguments against human rights are always ad hoc. They are always whatever's convenient at the time. Homosexual relationships don't create a family, but a naturally sterile union. Okay, so for this argument to make any sense, we have to say that an unfertile woman or an unfertile man getting in a relationship with anybody else is automatically as bad as a homosexual marriage. But they'll never argue that. They'll never do that. Just like when that coward Mike Winger tried to argue that and had to get himself bailed out by fucking James from Modern Day Debate from me and Ocean. Still bitter about that. It nullifies the state's purpose of benefiting marriage. One of the main reasons the state grants numerous benefits to marriage is that, by its very nature and design, marriage provides normal conditions for a stable, loving, and moral atmosphere that is conducive to the education of children. Again, a homosexual relationship has all of this as well. Homosexual relationships can be just as stable, loving, just as moral, and just as conducive to the education of children. And there's lots of options that a homosexual relationship has when it comes to having children. There's adoption, there's in vitro, there's surrogacy. There's all kinds of ways that you can have this happen. You can literally just be a bisexual person who's AFAB in a relationship with another person who's lesbian or bi or pan or what have you, but who's also AFAB. And you two together can just agree that one of you goes and fucks your friend Steve for a night. And then congratulations, now you've got a child. And that child is raised in a two-person household. And Steve walked into that hopefully with the understanding that he's effectively a sperm donor here. Like, you've got all kinds of options for getting kids added to this particular soup of people that you want. I'm sorry. These are all weak-ass, basic bitch responses that you would give. And we're not even getting into, like, the entirety of the stuff with TFP yet. We're just getting into the type of shit that's on their website. Gay marriage imposes the acceptance on the whole of society. Yeah, no, that's actually a good thing. Society accepting gay people is good. That's called a feature, not a bug. What's this next one? It is the vanguard of the sexual revolution. Again, better good. That's not a bad thing. These are only... Okay, so all of these arguments would only ever work if you already agreed with everything the TFP said. With everything that, like, your standard conservative bigot believes. Oh, and the last one is it offends God. I'm sorry, but if God is real, then he has thicker skin than me. He can handle it. I'm sure. I didn't know that God was the biggest SJW cuck on the planet, but apparently he is, because apparently basic human behavior offends him to the point where he needs to smite us about it. But okay, we're the SJWs. We're the offended liberals. Got it. Understood. So, what is tradition, family, and property? Well, it's an international movement. It's a political organization that tries to promote traditionalist Catholicism. There's multiple different TFPs. The first one was founded by Plinio Oliveira in Brazil in the 60s, and it was inspired by his 1959 book Revolution and Counter-Revolution, which became the TFP's foundational text. Now, the religion of the TFP is basically just Catholic right-wingism. It's a worldview that is characterized by extreme moralism, being against divorce, being against communism and socialism, and being against any type of actual change. Basically, think of it as a bunch of old fucks that don't like that the world keeps on turning without them, and would be very offended by the fact that the world keeps turning even after they die. Now, just like the NIFB, they have made a massive effort in expanding internationally into other areas of the world. The TFP in America actually has some very choice words that were said about it by the SPLC. I've got some of that up here right now. Don't count NOM out. This group will have its march on the Supreme Court on Tuesday, and no doubt will drum up a lot of publicity for its cause. Perhaps NOM is also hoping to burnish its image within the march, and co-sponsors like the Family Research Council, which is a virulent anti-LGBT group, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, known as the TFP, and the World Congress of Families, whose communications director directly compared homosexuality to pedophiles, fetishists, and sadomasochists, might not be doing it any favors. So we already know that the TFP basically will operate as a think tank that will try to push for LGBTQ rights to be diminished in various regions. And whenever they are found as a co-sponsor on something, just like if the NIFB were to do so, we would have all the more reason to have issues with that. But we've got some more stuff to cover where the TFP is concerned. As I said, they do a very good job of scrubbing their Wikipedia page. So any actual controversies that they are involved in, anything that can negatively associate their organization with any human rights, anti-activism, is very, very hard to find. Now, obviously, when we looked at their website, it was very easy for us to find stuff that we can disagree with. But when it comes to finding which pies their fingers are in, it's a little harder to do. They're really good at scrubbing the net. They largely believe that a loss of faith and a rejection of the principles of the natural order are a bad thing. Again, this is something the NIFB holds to as well, and a lot of right-wing Christian organizations do. But when we're looking at the TFP, there's something else that they believe that I think is kind of important. Not only are they very counter-revolutionary, which means that when we try to do things like change the status quo, when we agree that the status quo is bad, so for instance, gay marriage not being legal, we agree that's a bad thing, so we change the status quo. Gay marriage is now legal. Trans rights needing to be advocated for. They are naturally going to be proponents against trans rights, because that would be a change to the status quo, or in their eyes, a change to the natural order. But the TFP also believes in something that I think is really, really fucked up. And this is the last thing I have on them before I throw it to you guys to give me any research or anything that you might have found on the TFP. Because again, the offerings that I am able to find are a lot sparser than what I would like. The TFP believes in a concept called harmonious inequalities. Now, what do you think that means? From what I've been able to tell, the idea of harmonious inequalities basically says that the status quo, where there are a shit ton of very, very rich people who control aspects of our media, who control our governments via lobbying systems, that world where there are people who are naturally poor and reliant, and people who have shit tons of money and therefore are in positions of power, this is a good thing. These are considered, again, harmonious inequalities. That doesn't just extend to financial inequalities, but that would also extend to natural inequalities between, say, men and women, or natural inequalities between cis people and trans people, or natural inequalities between gay people and straight people. Now, while these are all inequalities that people who watch my channel, I would hope, would advocate for the abolishment of, we don't need inequalities between men and women. We don't need inequalities between the genders. We don't need inequalities between people who are cis and not. We don't need inequalities between people who are gay and straight. We should have equality on all of those fronts. There's no reason that me being born a certain way should put me above anybody else, and vice versa. But because that extends, in their ideology, to financial inequalities as well, then the ways in which the proletariat are abused are just part of the natural order to them. There's just naturally sharks and minnows, and if you're born poor and born a minnow, then I guess you have to be consumed by the sharks. Titan says traditional Catholicism always relied on poverty, and that doesn't surprise me. Again, this is a very traditional Catholic group, so it shouldn't surprise anybody that this is something they're advocating for. So what we have here, from what I've been able to tell, is we have a Catholic far-right conservative think tank that advocates for anti-LGBTQ policies, advocates for policies that increase wealth disparities between people, and basically advocates for the abuse of the proletariat. Now, what I don't have, and what I have not been able to find, is the specific pies their hands are in, the specific influence that they have. They're a worldwide organization with different branches of them in Brazil and the United States and other fucking countries. But again, what I can't find, and what I'm hoping that you all will be able to help me find, is where all of their resources are being allocated to. Which pundits do they lobby for? Which politicians do they push to write legislation? Where are they putting their money? Where are they putting their time over and above the offerings we can find on their website? So, this is where I hand it off to you guys. Let me know what you can find, and I appreciate all of your help where this is concerned. I have not been able to find more in my scouring, and I wish that I could have. But hopefully, I've cultivated an audience of people who are skeptical enough and who are good enough at sleuthing to help me out here. So, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and I appreciate all the help on this particular project going forward. But as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.